Hi guys, hope you don't mind the quality and the awkward layout, but I'm recording on my phone, so I thought might as well. So today I'm going to be reviewing The Shape of Water, which is I can never say his first name, but a Guillermo del Toro film, which I'm in love with everything I've seen from him. I think he's such an awesome director. He always has such a strong vision, and I feel like from every film I've seen, like personally, he's executed it so well, like just beyond my wildest imaginings. So yeah, this came out recently. I don't know if it actually came out today. I'm filming this on Valentine's Day. I went to see it with my mate, and I feel like it did come out today or maybe like around that time. And I've been wanting to see this for so long. I saw like a stunning concept art for it maybe like a year or so ago, and since then I had like been on this massive like hunt trying to find out, you know, when is it coming out, because everything I kept seeing was like people saying like how many awards it's getting, these good reviews, and I'm thinking, yeah, but when does it come out to the public? When can I see it? So I was trying to, you know, find out all the information I could find out, and I ended up stumbling on an Instagram account of Doug Jones's, who I realised after like seeing his little bio and like recognising his stature, because he's always got prosthetics on in what I've seen. He's in quite a lot of Del Toro's films, and it kind of made me chuckle because it reminded me of like Johnny Depp and Tim Burton's little bromance that they've got on. I feel like these guys have got one going on too. So that was really nice, and I thought, yes, it's Del Toro, it's got this dude in it, I need to see it. I mean, the concept art, you know, it sold me on it anyway. So yeah, when we finally got a date of when it was released, and I was like, yes, I need to see this at all costs. So before I tell you about the synopsis, I just want to let you know that I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. So what it's about, we're basically following this girl as she sort of works in, it's a really mundane sort of job, a boring lifestyle. She's working as a cleaner in, I still don't really know exactly what sort of facility it is, but it's like a basement science laboratory sort of area, like the whole thing some sort of science complex, I guess. And she stumbles on this room. Basically she's asked to clean, and she sees this creature. I didn't know what the creature's name was throughout it, but I think he's got some weird name, I can't remember, but I saw it. But he's never referred to with a name, or like he doesn't have one. And she sees him and she's like, oh my gosh. And from the get-go, she's like pretty much fascinated by this creature, and she goes to visit him, even though she's not really allowed in there because they've got this random creature. It's a scientific laboratory. It's not a very nice time, and they're pretty brutal, and they're trying to they want to cut him up basically and sort of experiment on him. And she kind of falls in love with this fish creature. They use the term mermaid. I would never have thought mermaid if they didn't say the word, but yeah, I guess he is a type of mermaid in a way, just not your traditional what you'd think of when you think of mermaid. I actually think, yeah, I think ages ago when I saw the art, I thought, wow, he's like a mermaid, but a mermaid you wouldn't think of like naturally. So yeah, in the back of my mind, I probably did think he was some sort of mystical sea creature, and he is. And she very quickly forms a bond with him. He seems to connect with her, and she just wants to help him get out of this horrible place that he's in. Obviously, she's not got a lot of status in that place. She's a woman in a time where, you know, there's racism, sexism. I'm still not certain on what time period it is, but there's just a lot of that around. She's also not your average woman, which I'll get onto a bit more. Everyone seems to be generally quite nice to her, and she seems to be a likeable character as well. Again, I'll get back onto her in a moment, but basically what I'm saying is she's obviously got to sneak about and try to figure out how to help him. So this is just such a beautifully strange film. I mean, what more could you really expect from a Del Toro directed movie, right? I mean, I went in this expecting it to be a bit odd and a bit whimsical, and I definitely got that, probably more than I was expecting. So I obviously knew there was going to be a relationship, like a sort of love between our main character and this creature that we see quite a lot in the advertisements, but I didn't know how far it was going to go. There's obvious bestiality of some sort in here, like he's a humanoid fish thing, but I know I feel pretty gross saying this, but it was so beautiful and so well filmed that it almost overrid all the weirdness and all the wrongness of what was happening, if you know what I mean. I think I get that sort of vibe from most of Del Toro's films that I see. Like, it's so wrong, but he does it so right, and it's just so well put together. So he's definitely got a talent there. I feel like the colours, the time period, the use of water were just stunning together, as well as the use of music. I feel like everything just flowed so beautifully. I feel like the hues of the murky water that we keep seeing shots of, especially with scenes of this sea creature, blended in so well, and it was definitely like an adamant continuous colour scheme throughout every aspect of this film. It just really tied everything together and sort of set the tone perfectly of what this kind of film was. So our main character Eliza is a bit of a strange one. From the get-go I was very intrigued by the marks on her neck, and I pretty much knew exactly what they were and what they would be used for later, but I would honestly have loved more backstory to her and why she had those. I kind of feel like if I spoke too much into depth about what these marks were, it would spoil some of the story for you, so it's nice to kind of just go into the story and be like, oh, that's interesting, and then see as the story unfolds. But I will skim over this a little bit, but what I will say is that I feel like it was almost a cop-out, mentioning her upbringing in the way that it was mentioned, because it's almost like, oh, this was that, so let's discard it, carry on. We don't have any history behind her or anything like that. And in a way, I feel like it could be a sequel bait, but I have a feeling that they won't delve into it anymore, because I know Del Toro likes his mystery in that, and I feel like keeping this story just as it is without really knowing much about Eliza's background will keep that mystery. And I kind of like it and I kind of don't. I'm just very, very intrigued as to why she was born that way. I mean, it's kind of explained in the end, but I want to know more, like the backstory and everything, basically. So it's definitely explicit, but as it focuses on this more sort of strange, what I'd call forbidden love, even though it's not really argued about, or there's no questions asked apparently, which I think is a strange thing by any of the other characters in this film. It's not near as graphic as some of the other Del Toro works that I've seen. I will say though, it's more explicit in nudity rather than violence, but in saying that, there are some kind of disturbing scenes of like torture, and there's a particular scene with a cat that, funnily enough, didn't make me uncomfortable as much as I would think. I think also it was because I was like expecting it, and I was like, right, it's gonna do that, it's gonna do that, and it happened. And at the same time, it wasn't a human inflicting pain on an animal, it was like an animal on an animal, so it kind of felt more natural, as savage as that is. And if you've seen the film, you know what I mean. It was a pretty brutal scene, but yeah, I was kind of taken aback that I wasn't as disgusted as I thought I would be, because you know me guys, whenever I review a film, I'm like, right, animal pain, anything like that, get me out of here. I can't handle it when an animal's involved. And at this point I was just sitting there like looking at Maria like, well, that just happened. I also found that it's not as horrifying as some of Del Toro's other films. I definitely feel like this one takes more of an interesting spin on the whimsical and the fantasy without being as scary or as heart-racing. Like, my heart did race quite a bit, but it was more about some sort of... it was to do with a character and what he would do next, and I was like, oh no, leave it, leave it, leave it. Not like as in racing as in, oh my god, I'm scared, what's going to happen sort of thing. So it was more of a different psychological, but it wasn't scary, if that makes sense. There were some uncomfortable, jumpy scenes, but nothing like to terrify you or give you nightmares. Not for me personally anyway. I absolutely loved that Eliza was mute, and we had some subtitles in here as well. It just varies the film a bit and it gives it a different feel. I like that Del Toro uses diversity in his characters, and that we had subtitles for things that Eliza was sign languaging, but the character she was talking to wasn't sort of repeating it in some way, which was obviously for our benefit, or responding in a way that would make us understand what she had said, if you know what I mean. So it broke it up nicely. And it kind of took me back to Pan's Labyrinth again, which I believe it's originally in Spanish, if I remember correctly, so I've always watched it with subtitles, and honestly it's never ever hindered my enjoyment. I quite enjoy that we have some sort of text format as well. It just gives it, I don't know, a fresh vibe, and honestly, me personally, I just forget it's there. I just get so absorbed in the film, I don't even realise I'm reading anything, do you know what I mean? And especially for something such as this where there are other characters talking as well, so I never felt lost or irritated or anything like that. I just thought it was actually a really good addition to a film. I would say for storyline, it's definitely a slower and almost quiet one, especially again for a Del Toro film. Some of you may have seen I think it was the 2014 Godzilla, I think he did, which again was more action paced, more monster movie sort of thing, but again that's the theme for that sort of film. This one was definitely a slower film. Some points actually for me felt a bit too mundane, and I think that's maybe where it knocks up a couple of stars, and that for the fact that I felt like I shouldn't be enjoying it because of the weird romance going on. So again, I felt like torn in myself, so that's probably why half a star is knocked off. But I feel like where it sort of lacked in action all the time, it made up for in character relationships and the development of those characters. I felt like that was just amazing. I feel like the way the plot trickled out was well paced for this film, if you know what I'm saying. One thing I have in my mind though, I don't know why Eliza seemed to have so many egg-shaped things. I noticed that pretty early on in the movie, and then it kind of disappeared, so I don't know if that's just me being like really weirdly picking attention to detail, or if it's just like a character quirk that I need to get over, and that's just a random little touch just to make the character a little bit more believable. Either way, interesting for sure. This film, I didn't know what I was expecting, to be honest, going in this. I just knew there was some weird sea creature and a human, and that they somehow had some sort of love. It looked interesting. I just went in there because of the name, the director name, and obviously the actor that I mentioned, and I really enjoyed it. I hear Eliza, I can't remember her real name, like the actress's name, but she's in like Paddington and that, and apparently, because I went to see it with Maria, she was like, it's so strange to see her like this, because you do see her nude, and it's like she's got such a sweet voice and she's so like almost innocent in Paddington, and then you see her in this and what she's doing and you're like, oh. So I'm gonna have to watch Paddington now and kind of see what she means, and then compare and be like, oh. But anyway, let me know if you've seen The Shape of Water, what you thought about it, or if perhaps after this review you'd like to watch it. If you've got any favourite Del Toro films, let me know what they are. I think my favourite, and one of my favourite movies of all time, is Pan's Labyrinth, so I quite liked, you know, being able to have almost a similar tone, if you know what I mean. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you in another video soon. Bye.